Climbers, I don't care who you are, you have created unnecessary stress and anxiety in your life because you've procrastinated once or all the time. Me too. Today, I'm going to share 10 steps and tips to help you deal with procrastination effectively.
Love it.
Welcome to the climb! This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. Leverage is the magic dust you're going to need to get ahead. You focus on creating leverage, and all your hopes and dreams are going to unfold before you because people will come to you with leverage. That's the key. That's why we call it the climb. C.L.I.M.B. Creating leverage in the music business. See what we did there? See what happened? See that? Did you pick up what we're putting down? Are you picking up? Did you get it? Did you get it? And that is a Baxter room for my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who is not only a friend, but also a hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Got a couple Southern Gospel #1s under his belt in the last few years. Top 10 from Australia. Another one just dropped a couple weeks ago, right? We need to talk about how that's doing.
Yeah.
Another
Can't wait to
Southern
find
Gospel.
out how it's doing.
Yeah, let's find out how it's doing. And what I love about Brent is he helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro. And then when you got your game together and the show is tight and it's ready to go on the road, he introduces you to the pros that can help you take that next step. And you can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. It's complicated, but Johnny knows all the big words and what they mean. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production singular, no S, and there is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
How you doing? You procrastinating?
When I get around to it.
When I get around, perfect answer. When I get around to it. That's right, God. I do, and so I kind of went searching for some answers on this. I found it on Medium, and it's actually going to kind of unpack an article from Dr. Mehmet Yildiz. No idea who that is, but I like the content. So
Cool.
that's what we're going to get into today. Before we
I'm
do
into
that,
this.
let's talk about some business first. The business. Let's take care of some business. The C.L.I.M.B community on Facebook. We want you to join it. Go to facebook.com/groups/the C.L.I.M.B community. Very easy. If to ask to be let in, we let everybody in. And then you have to be good girls. I wrote house a couple people last week. One that was crazy. Did you see the crazy one? Like just spammed the feed with like 6 different posts of 6 different products she's trying to sell.
Oh wow! I saw one was like a carpet cleaning or something. I was like,
Yeah,
"What are you doing? Like, you don't even know where we are. We are worldwide. You probably don't want to come to where we are to clean my carpets, moron." Somebody tagged me in I think it was in this group in one of those posts. Might have been one of those, might have been someone else. I can't remember, but it was just they tagged me just with a picture of Patrick Swayze from Roadhouse.
Nice.
I was like, yes. You obviously understand the assignment.
Well, they got Roadhouse and Band, because that's just like you're clearly just not even listening to the podcast if that's the case.
No, you don't care. You're there for yourself. You're a taker.
And we're here to protect our members of this community. That's just the bottom line. I mean, we want everybody to enjoy their experience in there. We've had so many co-writes that have happened out of there from different climbers and wins and all this stuff. And it needs to be this kind of fertile community where everybody can go in, get an attaboy and shout from the treetops about their wins and their gigs and their new music and all that stuff and get the support and answers that they need and go to read up on different articles and stuff. There's a lot going on with TikTok right now. I've been posting articles to keep people up to date with that. Cool. There's been murmurs of different. Well, there's been different state governments that have been banning TikTok
Yeah.
for understandable reasons. It's
There are some
owned by a
concerns.
Chinese company, and there's obviously some monitoring of data going on. But then, for the first time, there's been a first state that has
Mhm.
banned it
Banned
for
it.
the citizens of the state. But it's like there's a lot of loopholes in that. It's not like you're going to get in trouble if you have TikTok on your phone, but you get in trouble if you download TikTok to your
Interesting.
phone, right? So if you've already got it, you're good, I think, is the deal. And if you're from out of state and you're rolling in with TikTok or you download it, I don't think you're going to get in trouble. But
Yeah,
anyway, that's like a first step. I mean, it's a slippery slope, right? Like
it
if
is.
that goes
Yeah.
through, there's going to be, and the reason is because there's a lot of people having success on TikTok. I mean, we're doing some crazy cool
Well,
stuff with
that's
Josh.
not the reason it's getting in trouble, but this is the reason we're covering it.
This is the reason we're covering it, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, this is an important tool for artists. I mean, I think Josh Roy has picked up I don't know, over 100 followers since we released his first release, and I think a couple thousand likes,
Yes.
which is super cool. And um, uh, but like Vine, right, where
Mhm.
social media can just disappear,
We can't.
and there are people, like, I know people that are big TikTok influencers that make money on TikTok. Their
Mhm.
livelihood on TikTok. It's gonna suck if the government bans this for them, you
Yeah.
know. But there is another platform called Clapper, which is just exactly like TikTok, that I
Hmm.
think you need to be aware of, because right now, first of all, hardly anybody's there.
Mhm.
So this is like a wah, wah, wah compared to TikTok.
Right.
Okay. But hey, if you're posting TikTok content, then I'm assuming, I would hope, that you're multi-purposing that same piece of content and
Mhm.
posting that on Reels on Instagram and Reels on Facebook and YouTube Shorts, and you're covering. It's just
It
six more.
sounds like this needs to be its own episode. What happens if TikTok goes away?
Maybe it does. Maybe
I
you're
think
right.
because we're doing it right now,
That's
but
not a bad, that's not a bad idea.
that might be a good one of go like, what happens
But
if
anyway,
it
yeah,
goes
you're
away?
right. I'm rambling. But listen. So then there's this, there's lawsuits now that are out from, TikTok is now suing the state of Montana and for free speech and all this kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens. I don't
Well,
know
the
which way.
irony on that one
To
is rich
go.
coming from a Chinese-owned company.
Yeah, right.
Talking about free speech, I know a little something about that with the Chinese.
Isn't that hysterical? Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Anyway,
we want to see you there, man. So
the
to join
government,
the
not the people.
community,
I love the people.
and we got some. Yeah, well,
For the
you do.
for the record,
At least three of them.
for sure, and more. But yes.
Three of them for sure. What wins do we got today?
Man, we have some good wins as usual. They're more than we have time to share. But looking at a couple, we have, let's see, Buddy Lee Daubertines has got a song taken by Michael August again. Let's hope something happens. So Michael August
Nice.
is
Demolition.
the GM over Demolition Music, and so I had the honor of kind of introducing Buddy and Michael, I believe, at the we had a Play for a Publisher event through Songwriting Pro, and Michael was our guest. This was like back in January, and Buddy wrote a song with Jamie Floyd, that who we know from Denmark,
Oh, yep.
and I guess it made the top 10. I can't remember, but it got passed along to Michael. So I'm assuming that relationship is kind of growing from there. So that is
Wait, are you
awesome.
saying that in some way, shape, or form, one of your Play for Publisher events resulted in a real relationship and a song getting
Getting a
getting some
shot. It
getting
the whole connect to the pros thing, it's not just part of the branding, it's like part of the doing.
yeah.
So that's yes. So I'm happy for Buddy,
They
and
paid
that
what? They paid $25 to get their song heard, and because it was a really good freaking song, and it gets into the top 10, Michael August hears it and says, "Yeah, I can do something with that."
yeah.
Or
Well, and it's actually less because I believe Buddy's a Songwriting Pro member, so that's, they get a discount
yeah. Well,
because
for
they're a
the
member
record,
of
I'm gonna say this
songwritingpro.com.
publicly: you're charging too little for that, because I mean, if you got a good song, that's a good thing. And I mean, I'm just gonna brag on you for a second. Like, for all the other people that entered that didn't get in the top 10, they still get to hear they get to see the replay of that whole event. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of writers out there that are amateur writers and they know they're amateur, or
Mhm.
mid-level writers and they know they're mid-level, that can't see that, have that kind of access enough,
Mhm.
right, to
Oh, yeah,
really
for
learn,
sure.
get comfortable with what happens in there, because then their time is coming, right? Like, that's
Mhm.
why we
Oh,
call it
there's
the
so much value in those that I mean, there are people that just do that, like, I'm not even sending a song, I just want access to the replay, because you
yeah,
hear a publisher listening to a quality song, like, we don't play any duds, because Songwriting Pro members and climbers, I A&R the crap out of these and pick the 10 that I think have the best chance of getting the publisher's attention, and usually, consistent, they're like, "Man, these are, like, the top to bottom best songs of this type of event that I do." And so you're listening to good songs. It's one thing if a bad song gets passed on. You're like, well, obviously it's bad, but we're in a really good song. Like when they start digging into that, that's where the gold is. 'Cause that's when you get into the really dialing it in of like what's working, what's not working, and then just the other tips that people like Michael August or our other guest will just little value bombs, little nuggets, little insider, just pieces of reality. So
Yeah,
valuable.
like, here's what's happening right now. Here's what's trending right now. Here's what we're looking for right now. Here's what we're not looking for right now. And
Yeah.
you get like all that inside information that you wouldn't know unless you like work for a publishing company in
Hmm.
Nashville. Okay, number one. So you get inside information there, which is illegal on Wall Street, by the way, unless you're in Congress.
Right.
Uh, and it's still illegal, but you get to get away with it.
Right.
Uh, but also you hear the songs, right? You hear the competition. You hear
Hmm.
where the bar is set. And then I think so many times for the people who are really in it to win it, if they're not at that level and they hear where the bar is set, that's the anchor. They're like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I can do that. You know what I mean? Now I know what to do.
Well,
Okay.
that and one thing I encourage people to do is to, we meet on Zoom and you can message each other, give attaboys, attagirls, reach out. If it's funny how a lot of these people know each other by this point because they're paying attention, they're active in the community. But if there are people in there that you don't know, that's a good chance to reach out to another quality writer, make a connection with somebody
Yeah,
else that's chasing it like you are. So there are all these secondary and tertiary benefits. But congrats and good luck to Buddy Lee with the Michael August relationship. Let's see, we have another one that Sunday Joe Graham, our single song contract for a song called Living Free that she wrote with climber Carrie Latham and climber Brad Hacker was officially signed. So signed the single song agreement. I believe he's being pitched to a major label artist
that's
this
awesome.
week. Yes,
That's awesome.
that is great, and have another song under consideration with the CCM artist. So, man, so that's awesome. So I just love seeing that climber. They're all working together. I know like Brad and Sunday Joe know Buddy Lee. So these relationships are being formed, and they're all like rising up and having good things happen. Like when Sunday Joe, I think first started coming around, there wasn't talk of single song agreements other than in theory, and
That's
now there's
right.
ink on
I
paper.
feel like that's true. I feel
Yes,
like if we're wrong, Sunday Joe, you need to tell us. But
right.
I feel like that's true. I feel like she just decided, okay, I'm really gonna take the songwriting thing seriously. Like it's an itch she's wanted to scratch, and I know she'd been scratching it before she came to the
Right.
the client community. But then all of a sudden, she decided to step up her game, and just
Mhm.
really doubled down, tripled down, went to work, and holy crap, look at
Yeah.
what happened.
I mean, and how do we know this stuff? Because people like Sunday Joe, people like Buddy, people like Carrie, um, post wins and things so we can watch their climb. And we're not the only ones watching. Other writers are watching as well and going, "What? Oh, there and there again. There and there again. Good stuff is happening."
Yeah,
That's how we know this stuff.
yeah,
So,
that's right.
I want to encourage y'all to be a part of that. So, good job and keep
Well,
on climbing.
yeah, keep on climbing for sure. Good job, everybody. And make sure you follow the podcast wherever you consume your podcast content, and tell a friend about it. I mean, we're talking about people that are, getting all kinds of opportunities here, getting contracts, getting new co-writes, they're expanding their horizons. Use us and abuse us. Okay. That's what the climb is for. We want you to do that, but tell a friend about it. Okay. Let other people know. It's good stuff. I'm trying to get Josh to, you know, come in and be a part of this too.
Cool.
Like I had a conversation with him this week. We just shot Josh's music video for Break My Own Heart. And, that was part of the conversation we had. I'm like, you know, like he's just from working with you and working with like, you know, Blue Foley and Trick Savage and TJ, he's become a better songwriter, right? You just
Mhm.
pick up the tools of the trade. You pick
Yeah.
up some craftsmanship when you are with other people, and so, you know, it's funny. Like I got to share this with you real quick, and then we'll get into this. But this is like real world stuff, you know. So we are picking the next songs now that are going to be on Josh's second EP. Okay,
Yeah.
and Josh had some in there that he wrote on his own. And on the first EP, like all of the songs except for one, like "Break My Own Heart" was the only outside cut. All the rest of them, like Josh wrote, and then we had people coming in like fix. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We had like pro writers come in and kind of fix them. I don't think there's one on there that was like a new song. I could be wrong, but I don't think there was a song on there that was a new song that Josh had wrote in the room with them from scratch. I
Mhm.
think he came in and his you know, as a songwriter, like his instincts are really good. His melodies are awesome. I think you
Mhm.
probably agree with this, right?
Yeah.
Like his vibe, like the way he puts a melody over a feel on the guitar is cool. It's
Yeah.
different, like it's unique. I like that, you know. And where his weak point is, where his weakness is lyrics, right?
Mhm.
And so when I'm judging songs, Dennis and I, his the my co-manager for Josh, were looking at songs, and he has this one song that really has a lot of potential, and it was called Somebody Else's Boots, right?
Mhm.
And so the the first verse feels really strong, and the second verse isn't, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm kind of looking at it, and then I'm trying to think for myself, like, why is that? You know, and then Dennis is, you know, right next to me. I'm like, okay, look at the lyrics here. I said, I'm gonna give you a little trick that Brent taught me, right? And that is that every line should be able to point back to the title,
Yeah.
right? So I read the first line of the first verse and then read the title, and it makes sense. I read the second line of the
Yeah.
first verse, read the title, and it makes sense. Third line makes sense. Fourth line makes sense. Second verse, what? Doesn't make sense, right? Doesn't make sense. So a
Squirrel.
neat little
Yeah.
tool, a neat little trick, you know. And Dennis is like, oh, and then he's like, oh, I get that, yeah. You know, so we did. So there's a couple, and the other thing is he comes up with good ideas too,
Mhm.
like for songs, I think. And so, yeah, buddy. So I think you might be like all over this next one, but
I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
anyway, all right. Well, let's get on to this. We're taking
Yes.
forever.
We're
Um,
procrastinating, Johnny.
10, 10 steps to deal with procrastination effectively here. You know, everybody, I don't care who you are, you deal with it. You have to have it.
Yes.
So, I kind of want to break some of this stuff down, give you some tips and some strategies to help you get through this. I think it's a mental exercise to get through it, you know, because I think when you when you realize that everybody procrastinates and you realize what it is and how to handle it, then you can significantly impact the amount of procrastination in your life, right?
Mhm.
So, number one starts with awareness, understanding, and self compassion.
Okay.
Self compassion, we shouldn't confuse procrastination with self care, right? If you're tired,
Mm.
exhausted, if you're experiencing grief, if you're unwell, then you got to put something down. You got to rest. You got to rejuvenate. Okay.
Yes.
That's not procrastination. You can't beat yourself up when you're truly, and you have to be honest with yourself about this. This isn't about, oh, here's a new excuse I can make that relieves the guilt.
Right.
You know, but man, there's some days when we're breaking down, you know,
Yeah.
and I had one of those days yesterday, not because I was unwell, but just exhausted. Like the day before, we had shot the music videos, 15-hour day, hardcore. My body's sore, literally, my body's sore,
Mhm.
and my brain is sore, you
Yeah.
know, and just you know, went to sleep, woke up, got about the least amount of work in a day that I've gotten done in a long time because I
Yeah.
just couldn't get it together, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you know, I didn't stay late at work trying to get some. I just went home and literally crawled in the bed and watched some TV and just relaxed and shut it down
Yeah.
for a little bit. So sometimes that happens. You know, we maybe have a really bad day or something. So
Mhm.
avoid self criticism that can lead to guilt and shame because guess what? Guilt and shame leads to more procrastination,
It
right?
does. It does. Man, and so much of our hustle culture, it's like
Yeah.
never take a day off, never, work harder, harder, harder. But man, we are meant to have a Sabbath to, take a rest, to recreate, which is recreate, to have some of that. Because I know that when I'm running on empty, that's when I waste the most time because let's say fatigue makes cowards of us all. If I have something that has a task in front of me that has some ambiguity, some uncertainty,
Yeah.
that I'm not really sure how to tackle this thing, it's so easy just to reach over to the phone and do something I do know how to do, which is check Twitter or play solitaire or whatever it
Go
is.
down the TikTok rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's part of that is knowing, okay, if I burn myself out, that will lead to more procrastination. So when you were talking about this, one of the first things I thought of was like, get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
If I get a good night's sleep, I'm not running on empty. It's a lot easier to charge into those things and get stuff done. I'm not as fearful. I'm not as much of a punk when it comes to doing things that have a little uncertainty or ambiguity to them or
Well, you know what?
unpleasantness.
That's a really good point because you could take a task if you're, hell bent on uh, charging forward, and you could take a task and it could take you hours. Where if you just, you know, shut it down,
Hmm.
right? Went home, relaxed, rested, slept, next
Yeah.
day, and you just knock it out fast. It's way more productive, sometimes to take that break,
Yeah.
right? Like
I
if
can,
if
it
if
can
you're
take
there.
me an hour today or 15 minutes tomorrow.
Exactly. Like my dad would tell me that was sometimes when like you get focused on a problem and you just keep not being able to solve the problem over and
Hmm.
over. And it's like, okay, wait, put it down and step away from the problem. You
Right.
know,
Let your
step away
subconscious work
from
on
it.
it.
And then all of a sudden you come back and literally there it is. It was right there in front of you. You were just missing it because you were spinning out for one reason or another.
Hmm.
You just weren't seeing it. And when you step away from it and come back to it the next day, and literally in 5 minutes it's done, and you laugh at yourself. Everybody's
Yeah.
had this happen to them.
Yeah.
You laugh at yourself. You're like, "Ah, I'm such a moron. Like I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
But knowing that can be that is a tactic, right? For procrastination. So awareness, understanding, self compassion. Number two, set specific and realistic goals and deadlines.
Mm.
So, setting realistic and measurable goals can add motivation and structure to a task. I think setting the goals is a feeling of progress, right? It helps you focus on what needs to be done and when it needs to be done, rather than getting lost in the uncertainty of the entirety of the task, right? um, there's the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
That's
Like
right.
there's other way to do it. And it seems cliche and it seems trite, but how appropriate is that when we're thinking about procrastination, right? Like,
Yeah.
how am I going to eat this whole elephant? Oh my God. I
It
only got one stomach.
Yeah, it's the overwhelm. I mean, if like my wife, that's one of her things that she'll do with if we got 5 kids and Hazel herself can go through more laundry in a day than I go through in a week. If the laundry gets out of control, it's real easy to get like overwhelmed. Like when you're putting up even the clean stuff to go, I don't even know where to start. Like
Mhm.
you're looking at all of it. I'm like, not me. I look for the towels. I'm gonna start with the towels because those are easy. I know how to fold them, and it makes a big difference. And then I get
Yeah,
a
because
piece
they
of,
take up a
of
lot
like
of room. That pile gets measurably smaller when
with
the towels
few
are done.
items actually being removed, and I know where they go, and I know how to fold them, and it gives me a sense of immediate win and like some momentum going.
Well, that kind of takes us nicely into step three, which is break the tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
Heck yeah.
Right? So, by breaking a task into smaller and more manageable steps, we can reduce the feeling of overwhelm and make the task feel more doable. See how
Mhm.
brilliant you are, Brent? Um, when I I'll attach this to managing uh, uh, the promotion of a release from an artist, right?
Mhm.
I definitely perform better when the overwhelming task of creating and posting massive amounts of content and micro content to support a music release over a 6 to 8 week release period. It's quite manageable when I break it down and schedule boatloads of different little deadlines for each piece of content.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's just like if I'm thinking about, oh, we got to make a music video, got to make all this content, we got to do this, and this. Well,
It's
when we're
like,
sitting,
no, today I don't have to make a music video. Today I make a call.
yeah,
Today I make a budget.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't ever make a music video. You just make all these little things along the way, and the end result is a music video.
Right. And
Right?
so, we purposefully, when we recorded, when Josh was out here to record the first EP,
Mhm,
we did some content. We shot some interview content with Josh and some of the writers, with Josh and my co-producer Zach Allen, with Josh and me, with Josh and his manager, telling stories. Right, like how did they
mhm.
get together? How did this happen? How did he get here? What was that? And it's all about these stories. Well, if you go to Josh Roy's socials now, you'll see this stuff starting to come out. Well, we've got a boatload of post production to get done for 5 releases on the 5 songs on this
Mhm.
EP. But you know what? I'm only concerned right now with what? Break My Own Heart, because that's what's out. Right.
Right.
So all of a sudden, instead of like, I have to get through all this interview content, it's like, no, I have to get done. I have to get through this little section of the interview content.
Yeah.
And that's not so bad.
Right. Makes me think of, let's say Arkansas football. Like traditionally, they have the hardest or one of the hardest schedules in the nation. Like every year, we're in the SEC West. You got Bama, LSU, all this stuff, right? And
Mhm.
and so they're asking our coach about it. He's like, "Yeah, but we only got to play one game at a time.
Exactly.
Like this
That's-
week is Mississippi State. We're
Yeah.
gonna worry about Mississippi State, and then next week we'll worry about Ole Miss. Like, yeah, we got the hardest schedule in the nation. Great, but we only got to play one of them at a time, a week
And
at a time, and we're just gonna worry about that. You know?
yeah, and I'll share this too. When you break this stuff into smaller, more manageable steps, um, because this is a sin that I am so repeatedly guilty of. Okay, I am blessed with staff, right? I have
Mm-hmm.
intern staff. I've got people that are on payroll, and you know what I friggin' suck at is delegating.
Yeah,
Like delegating, because that takes time
it
to
does.
delegate. And when I take the time to delegate, then I feel like I just need to get to this thing right now because I gotta get it done, and I don't have time to delegate.
Mm-hmm.
And I spin out in my head. Well, when you break it down into smaller, more manageable steps, all of a sudden you start to notice like, oh, so and so could do this, and
Yes.
this other person could do that, and it becomes much much easier to delegate. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're you're rolling, right, and you're like
Oh
super
yeah.
productive when you're delegating.
Oh
So
man, this is something I'm living right now because I've been, Ren's been working for me for a while. He's been working for the podcast, editing the podcast for a while, and doing certain back end things for me for like Songwriting Pro, just stuff that doesn't have to be me. And I was looking at hiring a VA, a virtual assistant, maybe out of the Philippines or something. But I was like, well, let's just see what Ren can handle more, and I can pay him more, and just let's see, just stretch a little bit, see what's up. And at first, that's overwhelming because just you think of, I do a lot. There are a lot of specific tasks and other things, but when you start listing what all do I do for,
yeah,
especially for Songwriting Pro or the Climb, and then you start listening, okay, what can only I do? Let's pull those out.
yeah,
Huh. I mean, there have been podcast episodes that I wasn't even in on. Like when you would do the social media challenge with Lexi,
uh,
I wouldn't even show up on some of those. It was like, I'm like, that's great. But for the most part, I got to write my own songs, and I'm here on the podcast, and there's certain things I do and reach out to people. But a lot of it's like, other than that, there's not a whole lot that has to be me. Like I show up for the
yeah,
jam sessions, and certain things in
that's
Songwriting
right.
Pro, but that's about it. And start breaking out like how much can I actually delegate to him, and then break those out into smaller sections. So it's not like, oh, I'm just going to teach him how to do Aweber emails.
Yeah,
No, I'm going to teach him how to do this part of it. And so now I'm like getting fired up about it. I'm starting to see some momentum. So when I do something, I go, oh, you know what? That's something someone else could do. So as I'm doing it, I'm going to screen capture it and talk my way through it as I'm doing it.
yep,
Boom, put it in my training video archive. And when I get the hardest part now is sitting down with Ren and training him on something and going, okay, here's the time we're going to take to show you how to do this.
yeah,
But it's like, oh, I can get that off my plate. I can get that off my
yeah.
plate because that's all back end stuff. That's not hanging out with a climber, not hanging out with a songwriting pro member, not that stuff that has to be me.
Yeah, that's right.
And it gets pretty like motivating. Like I'm enjoying this. Like, oh yeah, ooh, look at what all I can
Because
not
then all
have
of a
to
sudden,
do.
at the end of the day, you're like, I accomplished way more than what I would have accomplished by myself.
And it's the investment. Yeah, it's going to
Yeah,
do the investment now. It's going to come back and pay off way bigger down the road.
yeah. I mean, it seems so like duh, but
Yeah,
I think we all feel this. You know what I mean?
but
Like
it's
we
hard
all
at
feel.
up front because you got a lot going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, that's right. So, the next number 4, use tools and track progress.
Mm,
Using tools like calendars, digital planners, diaries, to-do lists. These can help us keep track of the tasks and prioritize them effectively. It's a fact that when you create a to-do list, you open a loop in your brain that doesn't get closed until the task is finished,
hmm
right? If you don't do the to-do list, it doesn't open the loop, and that can be sloughed off, that you can forget about it, you know?
Yeah,
And it's really difficult to forget about something that you have taken the time to put on a to-do list.
yeah.
So in a way, by opening that loop on the to-do list, you're creating like this little micro anxiety that's a positive one, because it feels like you're in control because you know what you have to do,
Yeah.
right? And then you create what's even more fun is a satisfying dopamine hit when you draw a line through that line item and you've completed it on the to-do list, which is more positive reinforcement. And I
Mhm.
mean, doesn't it feel so good to cross something off your to-do list? I mean, Brent, I feel like you're the best of us in this department.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I'm that guy, and I know I'm not the only one that will, after I do something that knocks something out that wasn't even on the list but needed to be done, I will write it on the list just so I
Just
can
to
check
cross
it
it
off.
off. Yeah, I do the same
Like, why leave dopamine on the table, baby?
thing. Don't leave the dopamine on the table.
I'm a
That's
dopamine fiend, man. Come on.
that's so it. All
Yeah.
right, number 5, remove distractions. Remove environmental distractions like phones, set a
Mhm.
timer to complete a task. Put a little self, what's the word I'm looking for?
Limitations.
Accountability, right?
Yeah,
Like to
accountability.
with a timer. This approach, helps us stay present and focused on the task at hand rather than getting sidetracked on other things. If you have a little micro deadline
Mhm.
and you remove the distraction, then you can really get it done. And I feel like environmental distractions, right? Like going down the reels or the TikTok rabbit hole.
Mhm.
I can blow 2 hours on that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. I got an intern that's working for me now, like a paid intern, Luke. He's amazing. He's great.
Awesome.
And I'm asking him like, hey, let's post some of this. Let's get going on Josh's TikTok with this. And I'm like, you got TikTok? He's like, no, I had to delete it. He said, I'm willing to put it back on my phone just to work with Josh. And I was like, that's the right answer. But what happened? He goes, no, I just I'll lose half a day going down
Yeah.
TikTok. I mean, so he's all over that, right? He
Oh,
knows.
I don't have TikTok on my phone anymore. We switched phones, and part of it is the security concerns from China, right? So, like,
Right.
new phone, I don't need to put the spyware on there. And the other thing is time. And one thing I've started to, because I'll procrastinate going to bed for some reason, I don't like giving up on the day. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I've started putting like leaving the phone like in the hallway plugged in to charge overnight. Be like, because then I'll open a book, which is way more because it's a book that's going to be helpful. Like I'm reading, I just read Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. I'm reading Eat Smarter now. So these are like things that are going to help my life go better.
Uh-huh.
But, and I enjoy it more than scrolling TikTok or, when I'm done or Twitter or whatever. I'm like, why didn't I just read? Do something to better myself. So let's put that in the hallway. So I don't even have it in the bedroom anymore. I go to bed earlier. And I get up earlier too because I know the alarm's gonna go off, and the alarm's in the hallway, and I don't wanna wake everyone else up. So that
Yeah.
gives me that, 'cause like I gotta get up because I don't want that
There you
going off and waking up, the kids or whatever. So
go. Yeah.
a little accountability.
It works. It works.
Yeah.
It works. All right. So number 6, stay mindful when undertaking a task. So we must watch our thoughts and feelings when we're working, right? Because
Mhm.
negative thoughts and unpleasant feelings can disrupt our flow, our workflow, our creative flow, and our progress. Accepting and acknowledging them can make them disappear quickly. So, you got to be careful if you start a task and all you're thinking about is your fear of not completing the task, right? You're self-sabotaging. I mean, that sounds so stupid, but I do that all the time. Like, where I'm just so pissed off that I'm not done with it yet,
Uh,
because I'm in such
yeah,
a hurry that, that's all I'm thinking about. I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Stop, 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 stop. Pump the brakes,"
yeah,
and get back to, okay, like, just do the task, right? And get through it. Like, I think that's kind of an ADD thing,
yeah,
definitely like a type A thing where, I want, or maybe it's an addict thing. I want the dopamine hit so bad, I'm aggravated that I have to do the work to get the dopamine hit. I'm
yeah.
aggravated with myself, you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
funny.
I don't know.
That's another reason to break it into smaller tasks. That way you get more hits along the way. Every little
Yeah,
task
more
completed is a
dopamine
hit.
hit, more dopamine hit. That's right. Like, let's do this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Uh, Number 7, enter flow and stay in it until you finish the task, right? So the flow state changes the content of our consciousness at a specific time to an optimally functioning mental and physical performance, right?
Mhm.
Um, so that's a lot of 50-cent words. What do I mean? Like, when you get started, when you just start,
Mhm.
you immediately feel better about yourself,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
positive things happen by just starting,
Yes.
right? And I always laugh at myself, and I'm in the middle of this right now. I am hugely. I'm stating this publicly because I'm going to put myself on notice. I need to get my sorry ass back to the gym.
Mm.
Okay, and I have been procrastinating that forever. Still paying that monthly gym fee, which is just stupid.
Right.
But, and I need to get back there, and I have had this feeling, and I've been in this place in my life several times in my
Mhm.
life, a couple handfuls of times, where procrastinating, and then freaking literally on day freaking 1 that I go back to the gym, I've got instantly more energy, I feel better,
Mhm.
I'm much more positive feeling about, I have a better self-image
Yeah.
because I know I'm doing something, and even when I look in the mirror and my chest doesn't look any better or any tighter, I took a step towards that today,
Man, I mean, one of the things that people need so much for this sense of just well-being is a sense of progress.
Yeah.
That's when we sometimes get the most, even if it sucks, but we're heading in the right direction. We feel like we're making progress, can feel better than if the situation is better, but we're stagnant. Nothing's
Yeah.
happening, nothing's happening. I mean, there'd be times where, like, before I had a publishing deal, I'm been living in Little Rock, Arkansas, but, hey, I made a connection at ASCAP or wrote the song, we're going to the studio, we're gonna cut some like, yeah, this is exciting, it feels like progress. Sometimes felt better than having a publishing deal, and you're writing songs, and they're pitching them, you don't have a hold, and nothing's really moving. Like, situationally, I'm in a much better spot having that publishing deal and having somebody work my stuff than I was when I knew like 4 people in Nashville, but because the sense of progress was maybe more in Little Rock at certain points, it was more exciting and more motivating and energizing than actually being much further down the road, but you hit a little bit of a lull, So it's that
Yeah.
sense of
Yeah.
progress.
Well, that's actually, that brings us right into number 8, but before we step there,
All
I
right.
just want to finish up on number 7, like, it's just all about starting, right? Like, you
Yeah.
said this before with, scheduling your time to write, just start.
Mhm.
Once you start, the dopamine hit from starting, like, you're denying yourself dopamine by not starting.
Yeah.
Once you just start and the flow starts, then you know what? All of a sudden, your brain focuses on what has to be done,
Mhm.
you know, and not, I'm not getting it done. So
Yeah.
you're thinking about the problem or the task that you have to do. So, and then next thing you know, you're finished.
Yeah.
Because you just got to it. And how many times, climbers? This is for all of you. How many times have you procrastinated like a ridiculous amount of time on some task that seems so overwhelming, and then when you finally got down and got started, and it was like done in 5 minutes,
Right.
you just feel like an idiot because you're like,
Wow.
oh, for God's sake, like what is wrong
All
with
the
me?
energy and everything I wasted.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I spend more time worrying about procrastinating about this than it took just to get the damn thing done.
I know,
Like,
what a waste of
it's,
energy.
it's so silly. It's so silly. So number 8, Brent, you nailed it right on the head. Reward yourself for making progress and completing tasks, right?
Mhm.
Um, Rewarding ourselves for making progress and completing tasks can provide a sense of accomplishment and motivate us to continue working. Use a reward system that aligns with your goals and values, right? Well, I think number one reward system is straight up like a dopamine hit, crossing
Yes.
that off the list, right? And sometimes when like I get hungry or I'm thirsty in the middle of a task, like I will not stray from the task. I have to finish the task so I can get my treat, like
Oh, yeah.
so I can get my reward. And then I'm like, now I'm going to drink or eat this sandwich with pride because I like,
Yeah.
earned it and I got done. And because I will tell you this, like I am ADD as all get out. And if I leave in the middle of that damn thing and eat
Mhm.
the sandwich, there's a squirrel and 5 other things happen. And next thing I know, I've got 50 half done projects,
Right.
tasks done, and it's more of a mess.
You know what helps focus me? A full
Hmm.
bladder. Because
Oh yeah,
because
I'm
I
not
I
gonna.
work I don't have a restroom here in my workspace here. I gotta go into the house, you know? So, sometimes, getting close, especially if it's, like, around 2:30, and I need to get off work at, like, 3 because that's when Hazel gets off the bus or whatever, so I try to hit family time at 3, pretty hard out. And I'm like, oh, but if I go in now, it's 2:30, and then I run into kids. Daddy, are you off work? No, got to go back in, and then I'll check phone or something and like power through, and I'll be like super focused
Yeah,
for that next 30 minutes.
because there's consequences.
There's consequences. Yeah,
Exactly. So there you go. That's number 8. Now, number 9, strengthen the neocortex and tame the limbic system.
that's what I was
Okay.
gonna say. Yeah.
The the limbic system is the core of your brain. So this is like a psychological fact that as we developed as human beings, the brains were smaller, right? And the initial brain, the core of your brain, the inside of your brain, like is the limbic system. That is the fight or flight mode. That's the emotional brain. That's the reactionary brain. The thinking brain, the logic part of the brain, is the neocortex. Okay. So when you strengthen the neocortex, when you strengthen the thinking brain and tame the emotional brain, tame the limbic system, can put us in an advantageous position to deal with procrastination sustainably. Here's another way to put this: procrastination is emotional, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It comes from the limbic brain.
Hmm.
That's the overwhelmed feeling, right? If we're using our thinking brain, we would never procrastinate
Right. It
because it
doesn't make
just
sense. It's not
doesn't make
logical.
sense. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So procrastination is solely emotional, and learning to kind of separate the emotion from the event and being aware of that can really help you get this in line. Get your procrastination in line. What are some mindfulness or self awareness practices that we can put in place to help navigate out of the emotional brain into the thinking brain? Um, and I'm asking you, Brent, like if you've got one, but I'll start off like,
Yeah.
telling ourselves that getting started is truly the hardest part and ironically the easiest problem to overcome.
Hmm.
Getting started can just be get your ass up off the couch right now, go sit down in that chair and start,
Yeah.
and then once that's the hardest part of it,
Yeah. Usually
right?
is. Yeah.
Getting started. So knowing that, telling ourselves that, all of a sudden, when we're feeling overwhelmed, which is the emotional brain, we're procrastinating. which is the emotional brain, we can strengthen the thinking brain by going, the hardest part is getting started. I
Yeah.
know the hardest part is getting started. I know I'm going to have a dopamine hit when I walk 20 paces over to that chair from the couch and sit down and get to work.
Mhm.
And then I know that once I do that, it's just going to start flowing, and I'm going to look up. It's going to be 2 hours later,
Yeah.
and I'm going to have accomplished, a boatload of stuff, right? So once we're started on our way, that dopamine hit helps to focus, right? And if we focus on the work as opposed to procrastinating, we actually shift our focus to the thinking brain by simply starting,
Cool.
right? Hey, comment below in the climb community for any other little tricks that you use
Mhm.
to pull yourself out of the emotional brain and into the thinking brain to get it going. One that I started with this just to get started. So the final one, guys, number 10 is listen, procrastination comes from feeling overwhelmed, you
Mm.
know, and we start procrastinating too much, we start feeling really, really overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And sometimes that can be a symptom of something else, you know?
Yeah.
So, man, if it's not simple sort of everyday procrastination BS, which is what I'm dealing with, it can be bigger than that sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to seek professional support, right? When you're feeling really, really overwhelmed. If it gets real dark, if you follow these previous steps and you're still experiencing chronic procrastination, you can't get out of bed, you can't feel like you can't control your situation, there might be some underlying physical and mental health conditions that are happening. And so getting some professional support, or seeking help from your family, maybe a physician,
Mhm.
uh, might be a chemical thing going on there, an imbalance, a psychiatrist or psychotherapist, so there might be something else that's rearing its ugly head that is manifesting itself in the form of procrastination. So just if you're not making any progress on steps 1 through 9 and you're not seeing the needle move at all,
Mhm.
it might be something bigger, and I just want you to be aware of that
Yeah.
and take care of that before it's too late. All right. So that's all I got to say about that.
I dig it. I dig it. That's good actionable stuff. That's like real world that we all have to deal with. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah, you're welcome. And part of not procrastinating is really knowing like what you have to do, and
Mhm.
then getting a feeling of being overwhelmed is like there's so much to do, you can't focus on like what you have to do next, the next little
Yeah.
step. All you can do is just look at the whole staircase to the top of Machu Picchu and be like, "There's no way."
Right.
Instead of taking it one step at a time, right?
That is
So
a big part for me is breaking stuff down into bite-sized pieces.
yeah, and I think part of being overwhelmed for artists in today's music industry too is you are inadvertently trying to shove square blocks into round holes.
Mhm.
You're coming up with the wrong answers. You're using stuff that always worked before. It's not working now. It works on broadcast. It doesn't work on digital. And you need to untie that knot. It's a Don't underestimate it. It's a huge knot because up until just a few years ago, everything that you became aware of in your life via marketing and promotion was done so on a broadcast platform.
Mhm.
That's what you know. That's how you've been marketed to. That's how you've been promoted to. And so our default is that. And untying that knot is why I put together this PDF. Whoever owns the traffic rules the road. And I want to make sure you download that, read it. Go to giftfromjohnny.com, JOHNNY, giftfromjohnny.com. It's a free informational PDF download. It's pretty stout. There's a lot of killer information there, but it breaks down why broadcast worked and how broadcast worked. And I'm for the most part in this, guys, I'm not telling you something that you don't already know, but when you just break it down to the fundamentals, it makes sense. And you're like, oh, now I see. Then when I break down digital and how digital works and why digital works, all of a sudden you start to notice, like, well, this stuff that works on broadcast could never work on digital. And it connects the dots, and then you start asking the right questions.
Mhm.
And when you start asking the right questions, your subconscious will reward you with the right answers. So go there, just tell me where to send it. It's all yours. And that's it, guys. Join the Climb community, follow the podcast, tell a friend about it. This podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top eventually. When you decide to get there.